investment goals to get started today.
Investing involves risk. Merrill Lynch, Pierce, Fenner & Smith Incorporated, both a registered broker-dealer and investment advisor, member SIPC. Investment products are not FDIC insured or not bank guaranteed and may lose value.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
That AM 1400 KVFD.
That's right. I'm the Doctor of Truth. I just got off the air with Dr. Dean Stansel. Now I'm talking to a theologian of truth who is a PhD. He is Austin Hill, of course, of the First Presbyterian Church here in town. How are you, Austin?
I'm doing well, and I like your sweatshirt you've got on there.
Philadelphia Eagles. Why do you like the Philadelphia Eagles?
Sarah's from Philadelphia. So I had to become an Eagles fan, which was pretty tough this year, I'll say.
It was real tough this year. You know, they just won the Super Bowl 3 years ago.
I know.
They dropped off the map.
Yeah, how the mighty have fallen from grace.
Yes, they have. Well, Joe Biden, of course, is president of the United States.
Yeah.
And he's my president, and I want him to succeed. I will say, though, that I'm disappointed in that he promised to be a unifier, and he's not.
We'll say more.
Just in a short period of time.
Here in about a week.
Yeah.
The first week.
Yeah, I mean, the first executive orders he makes, among the first executive orders, are to stop the Keystone Pipeline. Now, there's environmentalists who've been running around like Chicken Little for 10 or 15 years now. And it's a high priority with these people.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's kind of a class issue, like smoking was, like banning smoking in bars and restaurants. I mean, upper class people, smoking fell out of favor with them. And it was decided that was a working class pleasure, and we had to remove it from our bars and restaurants because, well, these professional people go in and it annoyed them. So a campaign was started. Oh, yes, these people who smoke are killing thousands of people every year, some utter nonsense. And they got the whole thing done. It was remarkable. And they're doing the same thing with climate change, as far as I'm concerned. I don't believe that climate change is a hoax by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't think we're all going to incinerate in 30 years either.
Yeah,
that's the year that's been marked by climate change. People is the year 2050.
Yeah, kind of this 30-year window that we've got.
Yeah, well, thousands of union jobs were killed. Good-paying jobs with good benefits were killed the moment Joe Biden signed an executive order to stop the Keystone XL. He once again, and this is an old political thing, an old political trick, he once again rewarded those who backed him and punished those who didn't. Most of these union workers, you know, are going to be Trump supporters because they're just at war with the elites in the country. And
that's an interesting shift, because it used to be that if you were pro-union, you were Democratic.
You were a Democrat, yeah. Well, the Democrats kind of kicked the working class to the curb back when Bill Clinton took over. I mean, he never mentioned NAFTA when he was running for president. If he would, unions may have deserted him. But he lied. What a surprise. I'm shocked. A politician, especially Bill Clinton, lied like a weasel. And I did not have sex with that woman, Miss one. Anyway, yeah, he lied and passed NAFTA, and that destroyed a lot of, well, it gave an incentive, of course, for plans to move overseas to Mexico. And in a lot of people's lives and their families worked 3 generations in the plant in Webster City, for example.
Yeah.
They moved to Mexico right across the border from Mexico. Don't you love that? But they're still officially in Mexico, you know. And then they took a bunch of their managers from Webster City Products to Mexico to train the Mexicans to do the jobs that people over here in Webster City have been doing for generations. It's an outrage. Just nobody ever talks about it because the Democrats are behind it. The Democrats, this was the Democrats' deal. I mean, you figure the Republicans. And I'm babbling on here too. I got to get you. I have to get you to jump in.
Well,
the point I'm trying to get to is divisiveness.
Yeah.
And I've been bothered about that. I kind of stuck up for Donald Trump a couple of times, not because he was Donald Trump or not because I didn't think he was crude or vulgar. He was. Very bad habits.
Yeah.
But I thought he was significant pushback against the Clintons of the world.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there are a lot of places we can go with this. You know, maybe one thing I might point out, I think with Trump, certainly his words were not unifying at all. And here Biden,
You think?
yeah. And so here Biden is offering words of unity.
Oh yeah.
But then it could be argued that his policies are not any more unifying than Trump's. They're just
First
kind of
day on the job.
yeah. And then I think, to go one step further with that, we're seeing this trend that actually, we can look back with Obama and with Trump and then now with Biden with these executive orders, where at the beginning of each presidency, Trump just signs into into law, so to speak, these executive orders without really making these changes through Congress. And so it seems like we're just on this roller coaster as a country. Every 4 or 8 years, whoever the new president is, some of the first things they do is kind of erase what the president before them had set up with executive orders.
Yeah.
So I don't really like that trend. And I think that's also a sign of the ever increasing divisions among us, that presidents believe that the policies they are trying to enact, there's just no chance for them to actually get approved in Congress. So they just do executive orders as opposed to actually trying to build some sort of coalition or maybe even a consensus among lawmakers and create lasting change. So I think that's troubling as well. But then I think, to go to at least the one issue that you talked about with the pipeline, I think, this question is going to be a defining question, I would say, of my generation, as I'm 36 right now. Thinking about the next 29 years until 2050, what climate change is going to do to impact jobs, what kinds of experiences we will see around us as a result of climate change. Because I don't think, let's assume that climate change is as bad as the most alarming stories. Let's just assume that. Then we really do need to take action in very dramatic ways. But even still, even assuming that worst case scenario, some of the things that are being proposed, would just completely eradicate entire industries.
Of course.
And so now maybe eventually,
but
we
he
need to
has
get
a
there.
very diverse cabinet.
Yeah.
he has one of those transgender people. That's important to me, to have a transgender person in the cabinet. And Pete Buttigieg, of course, is going to be
Secretary of Transportation.
Right. I just couldn't wait for this to happen. Buttigieg is a bright young man, but I don't care that he's gay.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? You're putting this guy in there because he's gay? I hope he makes out with his partner every time he has a news conference, tongues and everything.
Well, I think, I voted for him in the primary, so I do think he hopefully will be a competent leader. And now I'm not sure what kind of transportation background he has, but I think everyone knew he was going to get some appointment in the cabinet somewhere.
Yeah.
And
why was he going to get that appointment? Gay.
Well,
that's it.
Or I think also because I think people recognized his kind of political acumen in doing as well as he did in the primaries. They're trying to kind of, groom him for being a significant player in the Democratic Party.
Oh, well, without a doubt, and he's a very charismatic young man and has a sterling resume, very bright.
Yeah.
But let's not kid ourselves why he's in the cabinet. If he wasn't gay, he'd still be in South Bend, Indiana, explaining his screw ups as mayor. And that's it. I'm beginning to think, do you have to be a transgender person to get a job in Joe Biden's federal government? No, no heterosexuals need apply or what?
I don't think it's that extreme. I think he is trying to be more representative. So? No, I personally, I don't really care about what someone's orientation or gender is in terms of their how appropriate they are for their position.
Interesting. What's the Presbyterian Church's position on homosexuality?
Well, each
gay marriage.
Yeah. So each individual church and each individual governing body can essentially decide how qualified somebody is for ordination or leadership. So it used to be that the whole denomination said, essentially, this was up until 2011, I think, that if you were in a same-sex relationship that you could not be ordained.
That's right. And there were vigorous discussions, intellectual battles.
Yeah.
Well, there were intellectual battles concerning the history of the Presbyterian Church and why their prohibition was in place.
Yeah.
Against the screaming emotion of liberals who were in favor of ordaining gay people. It was just, you're racist, you're bigots, you're homophobes. That was their argument. And it prevailed, by the way.
Well, yeah, I mean, that discussion, that debate had been voiced in the Presbyterian Church for almost my entire life.
Really?
And until 2011. And then I think when it was finally allowed that each individual church or each individual presbytery could decide its standards kind of within the larger standards of ordination, that discussion hasn't really been as prevalent in the denomination anymore.
Okay, so the Presbyterian Church then
allows for individual churches or elder boards or presbyteries to decide what kinds of standards they want in terms of, will they allow someone who's in a same-sex relationship to be in a position of leadership?
Okay, would that include a pastor? I mean, they are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Are individual churches ordaining gay people now? I suppose they are.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. The Methodists went through quite a struggle with it.
Yeah.
And I don't know whatever happened with it, but the Methodist Church came down on the side of maintaining that homosexuality was at odds with the will of God. I think Jesus. Basically every time they gather together as a denomination, which I think is every 2 years, similar to the Presbyterians, I think probably in the last 10 or 15 years, that's been like a primary topic. Yeah.
That they've voted on. I want to say almost every time.
But their problem was, okay, if you here in this church want to allow gay people in positions of leadership, fine, but give us back the property in the church. And they of course, hey, we paid for this.
Yeah.
The Catholics don't mess with that. The bishop comes and says, oh, by the way, we're taking the church and we're demolish it. See you later.
Yeah.
I don't care if you guys paid for it or not. We're the Catholic Church.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's similar to the Presbyterian Church. That's been one of the big sticking points. Is there have been churches who've wanted to leave the Presbyterian denomination, and then the presbytery will say, okay, you can leave, but your assets are the presbyteries. Right. And so then, you get the whole legal battle that comes with that.
So you're a little Catholic in your words and actions over the presbytery.
Yeah.
David Feldman would love that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the understanding behind it is that there is a connectional nature in the church, and our actions, our participation in the larger church has an impact. It has an impact with the other churches, with other pastors. And personally, my idea is kind of shifted on that. When I began ordained ministry, I was kind of more in the line of we should allow churches to leave if they feel so desire, and or if they just if that's their desire. But I've really come to value the connectional nature in the church, and a lot of what has kept me in ministry myself has been my connection to the larger church, working with other colleagues, working with other churches, seeing God at work, even in the people who I disagree with theologically.
Right.
I've been very richly blessed by people who would be on the opposite side of the aisle from me, kind of theologically, maybe even politically. And that has really challenged my understanding of being a part of a connectional church.
And by connectional, you mean?
Like in a denomination where we are working alongside others, even if we don't always see eye to eye on things.
That's very important. Even the Catholic Church, which for many years was resolute about their opposition to both abortion and gay unions, has lightened up a little bit with Pope Francis.
Yeah. And
Pope Francis is a very controversial person inside the Catholic Church. Of course, he is Pope.
Yeah, I know.
And he's one of those people that can say, well, if you don't want to go along with us, I'm taking your church and you can't do anything about it. Because the title's in my name there. It says Pope. There's been people in beautiful churches around our area that were furious that the diocese in Sioux City, which is, I guess, equivalent to the presbytery, came in and closed and said, we're going to close this church. I think there used to be 8 Catholic churches.
I think it was 11 that I had heard, kind of in the county.
In the county, and they're all closed now.
Yeah. And the only thing I would say, especially since I'm saying this not to anyone specifically, if we want to take that much issue in the closure of those churches, well, let's think back. Why are they being closed? Why are they consolidating? It's because people have been so inactive that they cannot sustain multiple buildings and all of the cost and everything that goes into that. So it's like, if we want to lament that we don't have these 11 individual churches anymore, it's because people aren't showing up. They're not giving. They're not as involved.
That's part of it. There was a real suspicion was because of child abuse lawsuits, and the
Right,
church
sure.
needed money.
Yeah.
Over in Duncombe, I think they auctioned off the pews.
Interesting.
That individual families. I might be wrong about
Mhm.
this. Somebody who used to go to St. Joseph's in Duncombe, correct me, please, if I'm wrong, please. But families would, and I knew this to be true in the Catholic Church. I don't know if it is in any Protestant denominations, but a family would buy a pew. And it would be there. They'd have to pay a fee every year, but it gave them a real sense of ownership in the church. And a lot of times, either they or their parents or grandparents had actually dug the basement for the church.
Wow.
And paid for it all these years. I think St. Joseph's in Duncombe, I believe, was paid for, and the diocese did not have to worry about the bills being paid because the parishioners were still active enough to do that.
Yeah.
But the church said, nonetheless, no, we're going to take the windows and we're going to auction them off, and we're here are individual bricks if you want. You know, some folks in Duncombe were pretty upset about that.
Yeah. I bet. I mean, it's a hard thing because our understanding of the church is very influenced by American consumerism. And this sense, well, I've paid my dues, I put in my time, so this is mine. The church owes me. And yet, when we look at the early church, when we look at the New Testament, it was much more of a communal, collective thing. Acts 2, for example, talks about how people would sell their possessions in order to give to others who were in need. And
we lost that somewhere along the line.
Yeah, certainly. And I think that's one kind of idolatry of the American church, is that we view our participation in the church the same way that we view our participation in a gym or any other kind of voluntary association. I've paid my dues, I put in my time, here's what's owed me.
Getting back just a minute to abortion, gay rights, and some controversial social issues. I wonder sometimes if the church's acceptance isn't driven by their parishioners. I think in the Presbyterian Church, in some Protestant denominations, it certainly is. A lot of Catholics advocate for the church to lighten up on abortion. A lot. The church has not. Now, you can say that's to their credit or not, but they have not, especially about abortion.
Well, and it's a challenging issue because I can see some historical instances where sort of the lightening up because of societal change has been helpful. I think of the issue of race, for example.
Right.
And I think to have the church lighten up about interracial marriage and relationships and things that used to be sort of taboo. I think that's incredible that the church has kind of gone with the times, so to speak. But then how do we distill the difference between that and then issues, say, like with abortion?
I don't know.
And
that's the kind of the point I'm getting to. How did the churches decide that these things formerly forbidden by God Almighty were now okay? How did that decision come to your mind?
Well, I think in every generation there is a challenge of believers trying to seek the will of God as it relates specifically to their context, and we don't always get that right. But that is the challenge: is to look at every generation and to see what God is doing and to read Scripture kind of in light of what's happening in the culture around you. And to seek the leadership of the Holy Spirit. I think we do that together. We do that in community. It's not just me by myself, but it's all of us together seeking God's will and hopefully learning from one another and challenging one another along the way.
Pastor Austin Hill of the First Presbyterian Church is our guest, and we'll be back with Pastor Hill in just a few minutes.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
North at AM 1400 KVFD.
And the truth is, it's exactly 2:30. News is coming up.
Plan your 2021 spring farming must-haves at the Iowa Ag Expo. Check out 64 different pure ag categories. Over 400 companies bring you the latest and greatest ag products to increase profits, lower costs, and improve the way you farm. Come on out and bring your neighbor. Happening at the Iowa Event Center February 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. It's the Iowa Ag Expo. New name, same great show. Register online for $5 off admission at iowaagexpo.com. Sponsored in part by Farm Credit Services of America and Ag Direct.
Hey, this is Lisa Stofan. Heard the Mark Patrick weight loss hypnosis hype? Well, I attended because my father stopped smoking with hypnosis. Hypnosis eliminated my desire for soda and fast food, made me want to exercise, and I lost 60 pounds in 6 months. My energy level exploded. I went to another session to deal with some other problem foods, and I lost another 10 pounds. In fact, I brought my husband. He lost weight. More important, cholesterol and blood pressure improved. My friend went and she lost 20 pounds in the first 2 months. So does Mark Patrick hypnosis work? Oh yeah, it works. Nothing has changed my life more. Well, except maybe my husband. He's so proud of me, makes me cry.
Wow, that is awesome. Congratulations. And that could be you. Join Mark Patrick's hypnosis seminar and lose weight, stop smoking, or end anxiety for only $49.99 guaranteed or your money back. Due to coronavirus, the seminar will now be online live Thursday, January 28th or Saturday, January 30th for the Fort Dodge area. Register now at markpatrickseminars.com.
My name is Mike Van Osdal. I am the co-president of Kitchen C Company here in Arthur, Illinois. 30 plus years ago, we discovered that this area was a hotbed for wireworms. But then when Pancho Votivo came along, we had no customers coming in asking for replant. Farmers trust me because the products that I bring to their table perform. And I trust Pancho Votivo seed treatment.
Pancho Votivo seed treatment. Trusted by the trusted. BASF. We create chemistry. Always read and follow label directions.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
With your KVFD News Update, I'm Rob Jones. Iowa now has its first black leader of either major political party. State Representative Ross Wilburn has been chosen to be the new chairman of the Iowa Democratic Party. Wilburn will replace Representative Mark Smith, the outgoing chair, who chose not to seek a second term. Wilburn currently represents District 46 in the Iowa House. That district covers part of Ames and Story County. Wilburn ran unopposed for the Iowa House in a special election in 2019 and then again in a general election last year. Since 2014, Wilburn has served in the outreach office at Iowa State University. He says he will be resigning from that post to focus on his new role. The City of Fort Dodge Public Works Department wants to remind residents that a parking prohibition will automatically go into effect on all residential emergency snow routes when there's been an accumulation of 2 inches or more of snow. The prohibition for parking will be in effect until 24 hours after the snow stops falling. To view a map of all emergency snow routes, visit the city's webpage, fortdodgeiowa.org. Iowa State Senator from District 24, Jesse Green of Harcourt, has been named vice chairman of the Labor Committee. The subcommittee met last week as Green chaired a meeting concerning State Senate Bill 1030. That bill, if passed, would provide new adoptive parents the same treatment and benefits by employers as biological parents. State Senate Bill 1030 is a bipartisan bill that passed through the subcommittee last week. Other subcommittee meetings Green was involved in concerned tax credits and property tax incentives for new resident employees that move into Iowa. The state Senate expects to begin to address the bottle bill this week. Fort Dodge Wrestling was in action on Saturday at a tournament in Waverly. The Dodgers finished second as a team. Waverly Shell Rock won the event. Max Bishop, Cody Cook, and 2 freshmen, Drew Ayala and Cal Hartman, all went unbeaten on today. Drayson Phillips got a win at 152 over the state's third-ranked wrestler by decision 5-3. Lane Cowell was 3-1 on today. His only loss came to the second-ranked wrestler in the state. The incredible win streak for a Fort Dodge wrestler that extended past 100 matches has been snapped. Drake Ayala fell by decision at Waverly Shell Rock Saturday, ending his win streak of 109 consecutive matches. Ayala, who normally wrestles at 126 and is the nation's top